Alrighty, gang, welcome into another podcast episode. Today is not only day 6 of the 7-day podcast challenge, but it is the 20th episode of the GareTheBear podcast here on YouTube. I've done it before. I've done, on my Spotify, I think I did, 38 episodes or something. But this is a much better podcast, I think. Much better. I think I'm just more ready for it, I think. Because I remember whenever I started it back in the day, it was not as good because I think I was just learning how to do it, That was more of my learning stint. I did a bunch of podcasts just to learn how to podcast, and now that I've learned it, at least a little bit more, I'm able to do it better. So, and plus it's live stream, which is always fun, having a chat to bounce back and forth with. But, today I'm talking about the podcast. I know, the podcast about a podcast. It's great. But more specifically, I've talked about this before, but I want to reiterate again that when you start something new of any kind, it's important to get your reps in before you can say, hey, I'm good at this, or hey, I'm bad at this, or hey, I like this, or hey, I don't like this, right? So you want to spend time actually doing the thing before you can make a judgment about the thing. Brent says 20 podcasts, man. And it's the second to last of the series. So I'm excited. I think I'm 99% convinced I'm going to do a 7-day podcast again. It's just a matter of when. Peyton, what's going on, man? I meant to say, sorry I didn't get back to any chats yesterday. Thankfully, there was only the one. But it was that kind of podcast. If I do sort of with a guest, I'm probably not going to do much chatting to the chat because it's I want to let that guest know, hey, you have my full attention. That way it's a respectful back and forth thing. Also, Brody, a milestone is coming up, man. 3,000 subscribers? That's all I can think about. 3,000 subscribers. I don't know. What else? I'm probably missing something. I don't know. But we're getting closer to 3K subscribers, which is awesome. So thank you for that. We need now we need more viewership. So everybody who subscribed to watch the podcast in full. 3K, let's go. Yeah, he figured it out. We could do a Joby Gorilla Pod video for 3K because 3K. Oh, that's an idea. I'm going to get how many Gorilla Pods can hold a car? Yo, I could use the Gorilla Pods to jack up my car. How many Gorilla Pods does it take to hold a vehicle? I don't know. That'd be funny. But I wanted to talk about the podcast today and sort of do an update situation, the plans for the future of the podcast, things of that nature. And also I wanted to go through and look at podcast analytics because that's fun. And I think it's important not only to have transparency with you people, but just to sort of, that way you guys can tell sort of what you're contributing to, if it makes sense. So you're helping out in this particular endeavor. First of all, one of my goals when I started the podcast, especially the 7-day, but just the podcast in general, was to sort of grow I'll always obviously grow the channel, but the 7-day podcast, my intention was to grow the podcast. And yesterday's podcast, I think, was a breakthrough. It felt like a breakthrough for the podcast and for the channel and for things of that nature in general. So I'm going to pull up over here what we've got going on. This is the analytics for the podcast. And then one of the things I love about YouTube podcasts and the new feature is that, I say new, but it's a couple months old now, but that you have your own analytics. You have your podcast itself has its own analytics. And something that I'm excited about is, again, full transparency, the podcast is really, really good for watch time. And watch time is good for getting to that monetization threshold so that, like we talked about yesterday, we could sustain our creative endeavors. So with that said, it's exciting to me because we've got this. You see, this is the 365-day outlook. So by March of 2024, so in another 7 or so months ish, if my math is correct, 7-8 months, that's a lot more watch time to get and a lot more podcast growth to get, which again, I don't want to sound any type of way, but it's just full transparency, real with you guys, because y'all are on the podcast, y'all are the real ones, you know what I'm saying? But it's exciting to me because, again, watch time's great, all that's great, but really truly at the core is I wanted to do more streams on this channel because this is, first of all, my favorite channel, quite frankly. my main channel, and also I want to have more real-time interaction with you guys, the people that watch and support, because I feel like it's hard to interact as much via comment section or via the videos in general, but doing this where it's live, the live recording, it feels more intimate, and like even just doing a longer video like a podcast, it feels more like a personal, more intimate experience. So that's one of the reasons, like, I started this, like, the very beginning. I was like, let's do the podcast because YouTube's got this new feature and it's really cool and I want to try it. And it could be good for watch time. But as it's gone on, the development and evolution of the podcast and of sort of how I view it is like, yeah, it's good for time, for watch time or for whatever. But it's actually really, really good to interact with the audience. And it's really, really good to have that real time back and forth. So that's a really cool thing. And I've fallen in love with doing the podcast since I started it. So that's a really cool thing. But let's take another dive into what we've got going on here. So obviously 600 podcast views. That's kind of wild. That's kind of cool, honestly. I'm pretty psyched about that. Then we do obviously we get the watch time quite a bit, 73, almost 74 hours. Again, very, very cool. Again, like yesterday's, well, let's see, that was July 3rd. Oh yeah, because I did the Louis Tomlinson analytic report. That was a cool one, and it's getting. I guess it's getting searched. I don't know exactly, but the last 48 hours really for the podcast have been quite good. So thank you for interacting with the show and like really being into it and stuff. But oh, that's cool. View in live control room. That's cool. I can like look at the one I'm actually doing right now. That's kind of sick. But let's go back to the very first one. I remember I was excited. I remember being really, really excited when I first started this thing because I wanted to for even a while before, I really wanted to get back into the podcast and like doing it consistently because like it was cool when I did it. It was fun. I enjoyed doing it. It was just, it added so much to my workload at the time that I really wasn't ready for or didn't really want to do. And it got to the point, same whenever I did daily vlogs, it got to the point where I felt like I was doing it because I had to, or like because I was on a schedule, right? So like I was doing a podcast every week and I didn't necessarily have an idea for it. I just really was like thinking, and then I just did whatever and wasn't really feeling it. Whereas this time, I think since I've come up with doing the director's commentary, it's really helped because at the very least, I have something every week because I make a video every week. And I don't feel bad if I miss a podcast because I've gotten better at not really feeling guilty if I miss because I'm not bound to the schedule. I'm only bound by my creative limits. So, you know, I miss one every now and again, which is fine because I have weeks where I'm not doing a video. And if I don't do a video, I just won't do a podcast because that's the director's commentary and usually it like works out together. But, I mean, sometimes I'll still do it too, which is cool. But I think, you know, it's funny because before the 7-day podcast, I would do like less than an hour most of the time because I don't want to do it very long. But since I've started doing daily podcasts, which is a funny concept in general, I think it's been really good to do an hour because it's an even set amount of time. And it's a nice amount of time to get enough said to where it's like super valuable while not being super, super long. Like an hour-long podcast episode, I feel like is a really good thing. In like 30 minutes too. I think 30 minutes to an hour is like your perfect range that I would say, I would guess you want to like stick to. But I think that was just a really good, starting the everyday, I think was a really good thing. And like I said, I've talked about it a little while, on July 5th, can a podcast be a daily vlog? I talked about how doing a daily vlog was extremely helpful and it was infinitely valuable to myself and like how I do my creativity and like how I make videos in general. It was extremely valuable because in that span of 94 days, which is like a third of the year almost, I did every single day and I learned every single day. And I was always doing something, right? I was in a way, there was a lot of pressure because I had a video coming out every single day. And after like the first week or so, I was like, all right, we're committed to doing this every day, no matter what. And so I had to make that deadline. And on one hand, on one end of the spectrum, it's like, okay, the deadline kind of screws you up because, you want to meet that deadline. You're not in it for the creativity or the making of the video. It's more so I've committed to getting videos out every day, so I'm getting videos out every day. But on the other end, it's because you're committed, you're able to, like, I always think about this where when I was doing daily uploads, I was committed to getting the edit done in a certain amount of time. I got really fast at editing. I got efficient at it. Granted, I cut corners here and there, but at the same time, I was learning my editing. I was learning my editing style. I was learning how to do that efficiently, and I was learning a lot of different new things. So like when I started daily vlogs, I didn't know as much about editing, about my editing software, about how I edit, about how editing is in general. But by the end, I at least had knowledge, and I was learning. Because see, it's harder when you're in the learning stage of anything in your life. It's harder to do a lot of learning if you're not doing it every day. It's like whenever I think about this, because I'm a manager at work, I train people. When people don't get their hours, it's harder to learn the job because you've worked 4 hours on Monday. You don't work again until Friday because you don't get a lot of hours right when you're starting off, which is fair. But at the same time, it's harder to learn the thing when you're not doing it all the time. Whereas if you start off and you get a couple days in a row, 2-3 days in a row, consistently you come in to one day, you do it. You come in tomorrow, you do it. You come in the next day, you do it. So you get better at the thing and you learn a little bit better, or at least quicker, when you're doing it on a consistent basis. So it doesn't even have to be a daily video necessarily. It just is like, do the thing regularly and try and make it better all the time. Try and improve at something every day. Like they always say, like this is the old thing that people say all the time. People regurgitate it on the internet constantly. You get 1% better every single day. You're not going to notice that every single day. But when you get 100 days in or a year in of getting 1% better, you look back and you're like, man, I really got better. And you can see in hindsight that improvement gradually throughout time. You don't see it when you're in it, when you're in the mud, when you're doing the thing. But over time, after looking back, you can see it plain as day. Because you're so much more advanced at whatever that thing is now, that being able to look back, you can definitely see like, oh yeah, So I think to tie that all back to the podcast, I started the podcast originally back in the old day. I could pull it up pretty much exactly when I started it. Because I made the video, literally the video was called I Started a Podcast, or I Started My Own Podcast, or something like that. That video came out, that came out a couple years ago, I think. I'm gonna scroll, because I'm already halfway scrolled down to it. But I want to see when I started it, like X amount of years ago. Because it's something. It's an interesting, let me see, where is it at? I got it right here. Okay, 2 years ago I started my own podcast. That was when I bought the mic setup, which actually I got it really cheap, I remember. I got a really good deal on it. Because it was like a bundle. It came with the Yeti mic. I think it was my brain is remembering $150. $150 for Blue Yeti microphone, shock mount, pop filter, arm. For the whole kit and caboodle, it was like $150, which I think is pretty good. Especially nowadays, it would be pretty good. But like 2 years ago, it was pretty good too. But either way, that doesn't really matter. I started the podcast 2 years ago, and then I started, posting episodes and whatever. And I talked about a lot of different things at the time, and I was just doing them every week. I remember doing the NBA free agency conversation. That was cool. That's fun. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of getting all over the place now. But no, I started it a long time ago, 2 years ago. And then I started it back up again a few months ago. And I had that time where I just grinded it, right? I grinded it. I did a bunch of episodes all the time. And then I took a break. But using the knowledge that I had from the past, I'm able to make this podcast better and I think obviously combined with the podcasting knowledge, the delivering of value and delivering of information, also that, but in my regular videos, my thumbnails have improved. So with that tacked onto the podcast, not only am I making better podcasts because of what I've done in the past and like how I've sort of learned how to do it, the delivery and the packaging of the podcast has improved because I've improved my packaging on my regular videos. So that all combined has made for a more successful podcast. And that all, I mean, success is one of those things. I can make a whole episode about that, where it's all just, it all depends on what your personal metric is for success. Because some people view success as, you know, getting $1 million or buying a Lambo or something. And then other people view success as happiness, right? Being happy, being able to do what you love without having to worry or without, you know, having to, you know, something like that. Also, fun fact from the podcast yesterday, I lost a subscriber. That's cool. Somebody unsubscribed from the podcast. It's okay. If you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here. It do be how that do be. It's okay. But anyway, so I forgot what I was saying. Shoot. Anyway, no, I think the way I've sort of set up how the podcast is, and I'm grateful that I started the director's commentary, because it felt like before I started the director's commentary, it felt kind of like I did before, where I was sort of struggling to come up with ideas for it. But that's the funny thing about ideas, and this is something I'll tell people all the time, is it's hard to come up with ideas, but I think it's easier to come up with ideas when you're doing the thing. And that kind of sounds like a piece of advice I see all the time is just start, which that's frustrating to people, because saying to just start something is literally easier said than done, because it's hard to just start. No matter what it is, it's hard to start something. But by starting it, this is kind of sort of what it means, is by starting it, by quote, just starting, you are eliminating, or at least pushing away, that fear of not knowing what could happen, or that fear of not really knowing what you're doing. Like, you don't want to do something as a human, as you know, subconscious. You don't want to do something that you don't know how to do, or that you don't know what's going to happen, which is fair, because like that's how humans are. But when you're able to push that aside, that fear and that uncertainty aside, and just start the thing, just literally, if you want to do a podcast, click record, click stream, whatever, click the button, start recording, and then just start talking about something random. Just start talking. Something that, whatever pops into your head, the first thing that pops in your head, talk about it. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how random it is, just start. It's that simple. I mean, again, it's not, but it is. It's so funny. It's one of the more simple, at the same time also more complicated concepts of all time. Because it's like, it is easy in describing it, but in doing it, it's hard. Because there's so much that goes into it. But if you literally just press record and start shooting stuff, or just take out your pen, start doodling on a piece of paper, you just by doing the thing, the act of doing it, at least as far as in my experience, as far as I've seen, the act of just sitting down and starting it makes the doing part of it so much easier. I think of just about anything. You can really just attach this to any sort of subject. Start, like, so you have a chore you need to do, right? You got to do your laundry, for example. But you never want to start the laundry. Like, the hardest part of doing the laundry is starting the laundry, because you have that mental block of like, I don't want to get up, or it's going to take forever. When in reality, it takes you 45 seconds to throw your clothes in the washing machine. You got to start the laundry, and then you have like an hour of just whatever you want to do, because you're waiting on that laundry to get done anyway. So as soon as you put the thing in there, you start the thing, you can do whatever you want, and you've overcome that hurdle of, oh, I don't want to do it, or like, whatever. It's going to take forever. It takes however long, 2 hours or whatever, depending on your machine. But it's the starting of the process that's the hardest. But once you're into it and once you're kind of doing it, it's money. But that's I think a lot is we are our own worst enemy in a lot of ways, because we, as humans, our own state, we prevent ourselves from doing a lot of things because of fear or because of insecurity or because of whatever. And one of the biggest strengths you could have is being able to push through that and acknowledge that fear is not real, right? It's just your own perception of whatever. Like, I don't want to do the laundry because it's going to take forever. No, it's not. That's not true. It's not going to take forever. You put it in there. It takes you 10 seconds to put your clothes in the washer. And then you can go away and do something else for an hour. And then you take your clothes out of the washer, put them in the dryer for 10 seconds, another hour. And then this is the part I'm like, all right, I understand. The getting it out of the dryer, folding the laundry, putting it away, whatever. I get that a little bit more. But at the same time, put some music on, get jamming, takes you 5 minutes. And then you're done. The whole process is done. All that you have to do is like 5 minutes worth, 5-10 minutes worth. And it's nothing. But it's the getting over that initial hurdle. Peyton says, I'm spitting facts. Thank you, bro. I love spitting facts. I be spitting. But it's all, with most things, it's that initial mental block, that hurdle that you have to get over. And again, to tie it all back into the subject of the podcast. It was hard-ish. It was hard for me to start because I knew that I hadn't done it. And you know what? Let's go back to when I first started initially, 2 years ago. It was hard to start because I didn't know how to podcast. I knew nothing about it. I did zero research. I knew nothing about it. But what I did know was that I wanted to try it. And the thing is with trying, first of all, it's like they say, it's always a no if you never ask. The same applies for doing something. It's always going to fail if you never do it. If you never try anything, whatever it is, you're not going to get anywhere with it because you haven't even gotten it off the ground. It's like people are like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel. This is an example because I know it. This is the example I always use because I'm in it right now. People are like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel. I have such good ideas, but I'm not going to get any views or whatever. I'm like, bruh, welcome to the club. Every soul that ever started a YouTube channel got no views at first. But there's people that are making millions of dollars or getting millions of views or succeeding in any way you could imagine because they started. And once you start, you can kind of build up a habit and you commit. And then before long, you either love it or you've learned that you don't like it. But you never know that until you start. You don't know that. And that's the thing is people are like, you could say, oh, I don't want to do this because I just don't think I'd like it. That's a thing that I've done. I've been guilty of doing that. I do that a lot. I don't think I'll like the certain thing, so I don't even try it. Or what you could do is say, I don't know if I'll like it. I probably won't, but let's try it anyway and see if I'm right. Or see if I'm wrong, Because you just never know. You never know. It's like you think about riding a roller coaster as an example too. You're like, oh, that looks super scary. That looks terrifying. That looks dangerous or whatever. But then you start it, you get on the ride, and you're like, you get to the point, you can compare this. So like, say you're starting to make a YouTube video. You get to a point where you're too far in to quit. You're like, okay, whatever, let's just finish this and get it over with. Once you're strapped into that roller coaster thing and it starts to move, you're like screwed, right? You can like, okay, I got to do this now. And then you clench. And then you're like, okay, let's go for it. And then it happens and it was like the best thing ever. Or the worst thing ever. And you're like, I'm never doing that again. Which is fair. You did it to try it. And that's cool. That's awesome. But, golly, the starting is the thing. I kind of like, I don't know what this is about anymore, this whole show, because I was like, I wanted to make a podcast about talking about the podcast, but then I just got on this whole tangent, which I'm okay with, because I'm like, I dig it, you know? That's the beauty of the podcast. See, this is the thing. If you want to start a podcast, again, just using this as an example, but you can compare it to anything in life. I was like, today I didn't know what the podcast was going to be about. When I woke up this morning, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do for the podcast. But then I was sitting here starting to make the thumbnail, and I was like, we'll do that. Commits to the idea. Boom. Committed to the idea. And I just, in my intuition, I'll just start rambling about something random, but I'll be able to tie it back to my initial idea. So like, I mean, as it's happening, right now, while I'm talking, I'm formulating ways to like tie it all back to the main subject matter, which is it's just about just going and doing with the ebbs and flows of how it all works out. I don't know. I just This is one of the reasons I love the podcast, is because I don't have to edit any of this out. I can just go. I can just talk and go and let my brain sort of let you guys get some value from the way my brain sort of demonstrates it for you. Like, I'm just talking, but it's all about my brain. Like, my brain is saying these things. This is how I'm just literally thinking out loud. A lot of these where I'm just formulating thoughts and ideas, but I'm saying it into the microphone, and it exists as content. So like, if you guys needed this or need to be pushed or inspired or something, this is instead of just me having these thoughts and thinking them all to myself, I come on the podcast and think them out loud for you guys, because one person could see this and be like, you know what? That was the thing that made me want to start XYZ. And that is, at the end of the day, why we do it. Because, you know, obviously views are great, watch time's great. The whole podcast analytics thing, the whole whatever the thing, that's all fine and dandy. But when you start to affect actual people, that's when it gets good, right? You see people that are like, oh, you know, I've gotten comments like this before where they'll be like, because of you, I started a vlog. I started to make vlogs. And I'm like, first of all, you don't think at whatever, like I'm at almost 3,000 subscribers. I wouldn't think at that size you start to have that kind of impact on people, but it does. It happens, and it's awesome. It's crazy. So it is something that even no matter what, no matter how big or small your channel is or your content is, you can be valuable for people. You can provide value, because no matter what that number says, you know what you can bring. You know what value you have to other humans. So you can provide that via your content or via your art or via whatever it is you want to do. Whatever your mode of expression is, you can express that. And if one person or 10 people or 100 million people watch it, then it doesn't matter. Main thing is that you are expressing yourself, and also to the people that are watching it, maybe they could get some value from it. Let's take a little rest to like breathe and not pass out. I'm gonna get some water. Everyone out there that's watching, here's more value for you. Drink some water. You're gonna feel better. I guarantee it. Giant water jug. After this podcast, I'm gonna edit the video for this week, and the video is a good example. Yet the video I recorded yesterday I think is a good example of sort of what I'm trying to say in this episode, because I knew what I wanted to do for the video, but I didn't really know the story. I didn't really know the idea. All I knew was I wanted to build a little camera mount for my camera so I could attach it to my GoPro mounts. So that was like the basis of how that video sort of started. And you know, some videos I can write it out and plan it out, and it works, and it's, you know, that kind of stuff, and the idea kind of comes in the writing. But other videos, sometimes it just doesn't work that way. Other videos, it's like, you know what? I've got this idea. I want to build this thing, but I don't know how I'm going to tie it into a story or make it interesting to watch, right? So that's when, like yesterday, I was like, okay, whatever. It's yesterday. I got the podcast done. I'm like, all right, it's time to record this video. So I just started. I said, all right, here's what I'm doing right now. Here's the problem I'm facing. That's number one. One of the things that's interesting that I've started to sort of practice is like when I'm coming up with these ideas for the videos, I try and come up with the conflict first. And I don't know how effective that actually is, but I'm trying to come up with a conflict first. And then throughout addressing that conflict, I can come up with ways to set it up and to figure out a way through that. So yesterday, the first clip I recorded was like, all right, here's my problem. I want to get this particular shot for my videos, but I don't have a way to do that. I could do it this way, but this way, it's just not quite as good. But if I built this thing to solve my problem, I can get this shot and hopefully it works out. Spoiler for those of you watching, it worked out and it was amazing. It was so cool. Let me show you. I have it on here. Since you guys are here watching the stream, being the OGs that you are, I'm going to show you the footage. Or I'm going to show you like what the shot actually ended up being. Because it's super cool and I want to show you. So I'm going to show you. Let's pull up the video here. So, let's see. Come on. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so here we are. This is basically the shot that I've created. Peyton says, This is the shot that so I was shooting on the GoPro, as you can see. I was shooting me like setting it up, and then I'm going to cut between the setting it up shot and then the actual shot. So this is what we've got. And look at that. That is like perfect. And then I move it over a little bit because like the way it's kind of set up is the camera's like on a screw, right? And I could sort of pivot it how I want and then like tighten that screw up. So I have this shot right here that I really like. I'm tightening it. I could put it up there. Like, this is so cool. And it's something very simple, right? But without this mount, there's no other way I can get this shot. And this is the solution to that problem I was having. And it turns out to be better than I ever expected it to be. So, like, let me see right here. Let me show. GoPro. Tighten the thingy on. Do the thingy. Oh, here we go. Look at that. That's what it looks like. My only problem, and the thing I'm going to take care of, so don't worry, guys, the microphone impedes my view. So I'm going to, whenever I'm shooting like this particular shot, I'm not going to use the Rode microphone. I'm going to use the onboard microphone because it's pretty good still. It's better than the GoPro microphone. So like, unless I'm going to just use this, like, if I'm not driving and I'm just having a stationary shot in the car, that's what I'll do. But if I'm driving, I'm taking that thing off because I cannot see. Like, it's not like it completely ruins my view, but it blocks a little bit. And if it blocks a little bit, I'm not using it, right? And that was what I did, like my thought with the GoPro too when I was first putting those mounts in was like, if it impedes my view, it's not happening. Number one thing is like I have to be able to see when I'm driving, or else it won't happen. I will not do it. Because there's priorities, right? So with this, the camera itself is fine, but the microphone's a little tall. It kind of gets in the way. So I'm like, nope, no microphone. It's that simple. So that's cool. Hello. Oh, like, look at that, dude. Come on. It's so cool. Look at that, dude. Jeez. I'm just such a nerd over this thing, dude. It's so freaking epic. I love it. And see there, I turned it. That's so cool. Dude. It's the small things, you know? It's the small things in life that are super, super satisfying. Oh, I'm excited to edit this video now that I'm looking at the footage. And you know what? I could talk about 18 million different things in this episode. It's going to be cool. But let's go. Let's lock in, right? Let's lock in. 3 months ago, whatever the heck it was, I decided, you know what? 4 videos a week, too much. Not that it was too many videos, it was that they weren't as good as I would have liked them to be. So, I decided to go once a week. I decided to go weekly. One of the most terrifying things I've ever done, quite frankly. And I did it, and it was great. I started it, did well. I was happy with it. The videos were good to my standard. I liked it. It was awesome. It was epic. It was perfect. It was beautiful. So, with that in mind, how I set up my schedule was Thursday, I write. Friday, I record. Saturday I edit, Sunday I post. And what I've discovered is, in doing that, having that day, right? I record my video on Friday. I get to sleep before I start to edit. And one might think, okay, if you have time between your recording and your editing, you may lose your ideas, or you may forget what your direction was with certain footage, or whatever. There's a lot of things that come up. And I thought that too, but in reality, it's actually funny. Because one thing I've learned is that in taking that break, your brain gets sort of rest. You get rest. And with rest, you get better quality of ideas, and you get better quality of thoughts, and you get more sharp. You are sharp. So like Friday I can record all day if I wanted to, get as much footage I could possibly get in 24 hours. And then that time of rest between. Then my ideas are sharper. My editing is more sharp. It's crisp. It's much more clean, and like the edit quality overall is better. And another thing I've done, I allow myself the entire day on Saturday to edit. So what that means is I can take breaks. Edit for 2 hours, eat, sit down for a minute, do something else, clear my brain, go back, edit for another 2 hours, and then if it's not done by then, I'll do another break, chill out, do something else. And what that does, that result is a better quality video, really. Because once I've established sort of the direction I want to go with the video, and I have something like a goal while I'm editing, I have something I'm committed to, then it makes editing with like a purpose. You edit with a purpose when that happens, and it makes it a much better video. And when there's a clear purpose in the edit, it makes it easier to watch as a viewer. Because if you just are kind of winging it and this is something I used to do all the time, and sometimes I would say I still do on occasion, but I also trust my intuition enough to sort of lean into that and be like, all right, let's wing it and see what happens. Because I've done it, and I've seen good things come out of that. But, on a regular basis, being committed to the edit and sort of an idea or a direction for that edit is good. And I don't remember exactly why I started having this conversation, why I started talking about it, but I think the point is that this book allows me to. Oh boy, I accidentally clicked on the video, but you already know I'm gonna be letting it play through all the way. Teehee. But no, basically the point is in having that day to record and then waiting and then starting to edit later, the edit is better because I'm rested and my mind is clear, and I can just do it, and it's much better. I started this, I don't remember why I started saying all these things, but I did anyway. So sorry if that was confusing at all, or felt unnecessary. I just be getting on rants and I just go until I forget. So yeah, my bad, gang. But anyway, no, that's something I've learned, and I'm actually now really passionate about. It's I'm committed to the rest of the part of the process is the rest. It's like anything else. You can grind for 20 hours a day and only get 4 hours of sleep, but then you're not going to be able to have a high quality grind if you only sleep for 4 hours. But if you sleep for 7, 8, 9, whatever you want, whatever you need, then the time that you're awake, the time that you're working, it is so much better in quality because you're not half dead, right? You're rested and you're physically and mentally sharper. How I cured my phone addiction. This is actually, I kind of liked this video if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, this was the decluttering of my room episode. I remember this. And see, the thing with these old videos is I think the idea is there, but it's the thing of when I didn't allow myself very much time to make this idea a reality, then it kind of is what am I trying to say? I didn't have enough time to actually create it, so it ended up suffering because it was more of a crunched together sort of thing. I gotta cut corners a lot in editing, so I don't know. Oh, this is good. I'm like watching this video now. It's funny. I'm gonna again give my voice a break. Gonna just try to chill because man, I be going on these rants and then like I run out of breath. I wanna drink lemonade, never rain on your parade. So okay, let me tell you a little story too. So in the Louis Tomlinson vlog, this one right here, I'm circling it with my mouse. One of the openers for him was a band called The Academic, and in the last like 3-4 days, I've been obsessed with them. And it's funny because I used to think that it's like, oh, openers suck or whatever, and like they're not. But you know, they don't. And this particular opener sort of, I was like, you know, they were actually really bopping at the concert. We were there before, and like we got to hear them a little bit, and it was like, we were like, man, they're actually kind of bopping over here. They're kind of, you know, we were tapping our foot and bobbing our head to it. And so, found them on Spotify, looked them up, listened to their music, and I was like, bro, this is actually really good. It's actually really, really good. And so, obviously, I've been grinding and obsessed over it for a week or so. Just been jamming to the jams. No, but I'm really excited. And let me tell you about something else, too. So, I think I mentioned this. I don't know. My brain's all kind of going together at this point. But I mentioned this to people in real life. But one thing that I've learned over the... One thing, I wouldn't say I learned it. Because, like, I don't know how... Or I don't know if I'm going to, like, continually do this thing. But one thing that I've seen from a lot of people is that you should make your title and thumbnail first for the video. They say that should come first in the process. That way, like I said earlier, you have a direction and you have sort of like, you have a direction and you're committed to a direction in the edit. So this is the thumbnail for tomorrow's video. This is the thing that I made, whatever. And it's easy to like see because, or it's easy to do this particular thumbnail. I think it would be easy to do before or after the video is made because it's relatively simple. It's pretty cut and dry. It's like basic, right? But I think, first of all, for me, when I make the thumbnail after the video ends, like after I'm finished creating the video and I've posted it, I just got to get a thumbnail out. I feel like it takes me longer because I'm trying to match the thumbnail to the video that I made as opposed to just creating a good thumbnail. And it takes me longer to do the thumbnail, I think, when I do it afterwards. Whereas if I'm deliberate and I like take, like this thumbnail I made, I took the one I just showed you guys. The one that I actually, you know, took time, went outside where there's good lighting, took pictures, made a proper effort to create exactly the thumbnail I was trying to make. And that's the thing I just need to do better at is making the thumbnail that I'm trying, like that I want to make. Instead of picking assets from the video, hoping that I find the right pictures. Again, from the video, I've been doing like the still frames from the video. I'm trying to find the right pictures, and hopefully it works out to where it becomes a good thumbnail instead of deliberately making a good thumbnail on purpose. Like doing the thing with purpose, taking the pictures, setting it up to where it makes exactly the thumbnail that I want to make. So like I can show you here on the channel. This thumbnail, this was actually pretty, I did this like pretty deliberately. This was a good thing. But this thumbnail, even with the video that's doing really well, the concert vlog, all of the pictures in this were, I just cut them out from the video. I had to like dig and dig and dig. And then this video, same way. The background was a hard thing for me on the Does Gear Really Matter video. The background for me was hard because I didn't really know. They didn't really have one, you know. I just didn't really. I don't know. So I decided to use that instead because it's a GoPro shot and like it kind of relates to gear a little bit. My favorite thumbnail of the recent ones is this Patreon thumbnail. This one wasn't planned, but it was just one of those that happened to work out really, really well. Because I had the shot of the Patreon logo. I had this shot of this. I made this exact face in the video. It was a still frame. But it was outside, so like it worked out lighting-wise. It was really, really good. And I was really happy with it. So, that's one of the instances where it can really work out. And I think something I've started to do, and I talked about this another time, where I'm less and less in my video making endeavors, less and less do I want to put text in my thumbnails. Like, it's very, I mean, in the last 7 videos, okay, I've got text in 4 of the thumbnails, but I don't even think it's necessary, honestly. The best vlog ever, I can see that being necessary. Oh, I'm sorry. I could see that being necessary in the thumbnail for that video. But in, like, the stumped video or in the luck video, I don't think it really was that necessary. Like, I could go back. Does luck actually exist? I could take the word luck out of there, and it'd probably be a better thumbnail. And I could probably zoom in more on that clover. Matter of fact, this is how it happens, folks. This is how it happens. I'm going to open up Photoshop. I don't know if I have a Photoshop file for that thumbnail. I probably don't. I'm just going to remake it. Screw it. Just whatever. I'm just going to do it. Because this is what we do around here. We just make it random. You know, we just be doing the things. I'm going to remake the luck thumbnail because because why not? That was it was a few months ago. That was probably like, what, June or July? I mean, June or May or June? May. April? May. Here it is. So this is the thing. Come on. There we go. Oh, yeah, I can make that better. That's a good picture, too, actually. I really like it. I want to drink lemonade and never rain on your parade before I go bite my tongue. Do I use the same picture? Yeah, probably. Okay, so we're going to cut this bad boy out myself. I miss hoodie weather. I genuinely do. I miss hoodie weather. Although I don't miss having to, like, take my hoodie off all the time and put it back on. It's kind of annoying. Oh, shoot. Okay. Whoa, what was that? That was a noise. I think I accidentally hit some button. I don't know. Either way. It's kind of annoying for making thumbnail purposes, like when my hair is all fuzzy like that, because it's so hard to cut it properly to where it looks decent. And we're going to just do. How's that? That seems okay. My thumb is kind of messed up. And alright. That seems okay. Let's copy. Boom. Make this a little bigger. I think we're going to do this. And I'm going to take the background. See, instead of putting the word there, I'm going to just make this bigger. Yes! That's exactly how I pictured it would be. And then we're just going to edit the colors and the stuff of that nature, and it's going to be, this is better thumbnail. It's better. I don't care. It's better. I think so anyway. I would click on it more so than the other one. That's also my personal clicking habits, you know. That's the thing about thumbnails. It's kind of funny. It's like, it's hard to appeal to everyone because everyone clicks on different things for different reasons. So one person may prefer a more simple, you know, fewer elements type of thumbnail, whereas other people maybe want like the bright and the eye-catching element of it. I think it all just depends on what you're down for, you know, what you're into. Saturation. Do I do the sharpness too or nah? And then we're going to do the eyeball thing. You already know what it do, man. all I'd be doing with my eyes. See, it's funny because in the thumbnails, some of the pictures that are taken, my irises kind of look dark, like really, really dark, because of like shadow over from my brow or something like that. So what I'll do is I'll select my iris. I think it's my iris is what it's called, and then I'll do the thing. Oh shoot, hold on. I'll go up here to enhance, and then I will simply just adjust the shadows and highlights by the default thing. Deselect it. And it's just a little bit brighter, just a little bit, so you can see it a little bit better. All that does is lighten the shadows up a little bit, which I think makes for a little bit of a better look. And I'm actually going to erase this part of my hair too. Yeah, it looks dope. I think that's a finished thumbnail. Honestly, that was relatively quick and simple. But I think anymore, I feel like text is just not necessary. Unless it's super like on brand or something, I just feel like it doesn't need to be there. You know? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I think it's a success though. I rock with it. Dude. I rock with it. I'm a fan. Doodly doo, JPEG 5723, number 11. No, what? There's a Photoshop. Bro, I had the Photoshop file already saved. I could have just gone back and fixed it. Oh well. Oh well. That's cool. And then we're gonna go to the channel. We're going to edit, lay thumbnail. Or I'm sorry, just put the thumbnail on the video in general. Yeah. Beautiful. Before I go by my tongue. Because, I mean, you know, honestly, another thought I just had, if you put text in the thumbnail, I feel like a lot of times it can conflict with the title, right? Like, if it may be too much textual information. So, I can scroll all the way back. Okay, here it is. Oh yeah, the new one's way better. Let's just, boom, there it is. Does luck actually exist? Good question. Watch the video and find out if you're curious. Okay, here we go. Blah, 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 blah. Vlog 5, 10, or was it 11? 10? Vlog 5 something. 5, 7. Boom. Alright, so look right here. Watch change. Oh yeah, I dig it. I diggeth it. Is luck real? Is something we made up? I don't know. Again, good question. Go watch it, man. If you're curious, go watch it. Now, what's this? I want to see this one. I caught my attention. My number one rule for vlogging. Ay.
When you're vlogging, it's absolutely worth the extra time it takes to get that creative or interesting shot. As a viewer, I would much rather see something from a totally unique and intriguing perspective as opposed to just a talking head shot. Be creative.
Fair. I respect it. Oh, look at that. Look at that beard. Ugh. It's kind of wacky, dude. We're approaching the hour mark, so I want to say a quick thank you to those of you that are hanging out today, that have hung out and listened to my rambles. Oh, the short just came out. Oh my gosh. That's another thing. I want to sort of, I think I'm going to start cutting shorts from the podcast again, because I don't know. My gut's telling me that's the way to go with it. Because I have been doing Dear Creative People / whatever. It feels like the first time. No. It just feels like it's just going to be better this way. Wow. Feels like the first time. Feels like the very first time. Bruh. Yep, hopefully the short. After, guys, if you're here still, after this stream ends, go watch the short. Go watch the newest short on the channel. It's actually really pretty. I got some footage. We were at Ripley's Aquarium in Pigeon Forge / Gatlinburg. I don't remember which one it was. But we were at this this aquarium, and there was a bunch of fishies. So I held my phone up against the glass so like you didn't see the glass, and it was just fishies, and it was so cool. It's like you're in there with them. It's awesome. But no, I'm gonna experiment with like the different shorts and sort of figuring out which ones. Cause see, I've done, as much as I am lazy and don't want to, I'll probably do it the way I did it before, to where you get the text on screen. Because what I was thinking about doing was just taking from my phone and like watching the podcast back and then doing the one thing. But the lazy way of doing it, this is my final thoughts for this episode. I've done this with shorts because I want a lot of them, quantity. What I've learned is the lazy way typically, or the easy way, is never the way to go. Obviously, you want to maximize your efficiency, whatever it is you're doing. Like if it's like this, if I want to make 14 shorts in a day, I want to be as efficient as I can. But at the same time, for the results that I'm looking for, it's more worth it to put in that little extra time to make it that much better. So if I wanted to do it to where I would cut it from my phone, directly from that podcast. So you'd get that link that was like made from GareTheBear, and it was like you'd click on that and then my video would pop up. But I think what's better is when you have, if there's talking in that video, you have, for some reason this does better on short form, where like you have the text bouncing up and down, like the text popping in, like the captions. That's really helpful because you don't need volume to consume that content. So if somebody has their volume turned off or whatever, they can still consume that. So I think it's going to be worth the extra effort. And what I think is something I did that made it super easy, well, it was kind of a collaborative effort, because one thing, Evan and I were talking about it yesterday, and he was like, we ought to timestamp that podcast that we made so that people that would watch the replay could get a little bit more out of it, because like they could find something specific that they wanted to watch. So I went through yesterday, spent like an hour. I rewatched the whole podcast and timestamped like everything that I thought was important. So like every couple of minutes there's a timestamp, which is cool, because then if you're watching that back, instead of having to watch the entire hour and a half, if you're only interested in what we talk about, like sound design, we talk about sound design for like 4 minutes. If you're only interested in that, go watch that, right? So you can get a little bit more of a curated viewing experience that way. I think it's good. So that was a thing I figured that may be honestly worth doing for every podcast, is, timestamping it. But honestly, for stuff like, I don't know. I'm also going to add an end screen. But my final, what was I going to say? Good grief. My final piece of value, sorry, I forgot it, but I'm back. I remember it. Is sometimes the shortcut, I would say most of the time, quite frankly, the shortcut is not the way to go. Because what happens is you end up taking that shortcut, but then also the quality of whatever it is you're doing is not ever as good. It's not ever as good. So it's okay to take a little extra time if it's going to be much, much more worth it when the thing actually comes out. So like if I want to take, if I'm going to be lazy making shorts, the shorts are going to suck because of that, as a result of my laziness. All right. I'm doing an end screen right now for the podcast. I just literally said, watch Evan's content. That's all I have on there.
Don't get it.
I don't
That's
either.
nice.
I don't either.
Really?
That's sick. Okay. At least one element must be a video or a playlist. Fine, dude. I'm going to add... Let's see. Lindy's Life Vlog. Perfect. Gonna put that on there. Yeah, if you haven't though, for real, check out Evan's channel, because it's really, really good. Really, he makes really, really good vlogs. So it was so sick to have him on the podcast, dude, because he and I think a lot of that. He and I think a lot the same way as far as like how we create and stuff. So it was a really good podcast. Honestly, that podcast I think is my favorite of all the ones that I've made. So I think that was so. I would, if you haven't watched it, or say if you want to watch it again, I would at least listen to it because I think it was really valuable. I think we had a lot of good things to talk about. So, but yeah, we are. Oh, just crossed an hour. You know what that means. So people, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a blast as always. I love doing these. Like I said before, it's great to get the watch time. It's great to get the whatever. But at the end of the day, I just really thoroughly enjoy making these episodes for you and with you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me no matter what I make. Because if you're on the stream, usually it's like you support a little bit more so than. But anyway, no, I'm grateful for everybody that's here and that continues to show up to the podcast. So without further ado, I'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last one. Tomorrow's podcast is going to be director's commentary. I'm excited. So thank you for tagging along on this little journey of a week of podcasts. And I'll see you tomorrow.